Today, in part 1 of Chapter 61 of the Yoga Vasistha, we will discuss in detail topics such as the origin of the Linga Deha. I'm stepping right into this profound explainer, directly speaking to you as Maharishi Vashishtha, breaking down the very architecture of our existence, exactly like I once did for Lord Rama. We're going to do a deep dive, a meticulous breakdown of the literal machinery behind human consciousness. Moving into Section 1, we're defining the Linga Deha, also known as the subtle body. Now, to bridge the gap between pure, unadulterated consciousness and our physical, day-to-day existence, I've got to introduce you to the Linga Deha. And listen, this isn't made of physical matter. It's your subtle body. It's made up of your mind, your intellect, your ego, and your subtle senses. And it exists entirely outside of your gross physical form. It's kind of like the invisible software running perfectly behind your physical hardware. It acts as a psychological vehicle, carrying all your karmic impressions, your deep-seated habits and memories, from one single experience to the very next.
So, we really need to clearly differentiate these two forms of existence. On one hand, you have the Sthula Deha. That's your gross physical body. It's visible, it's made of temporary matter, and yeah, it's subject to inevitable decay. But the Linga Deha, that's an entirely different story. It's an invisible, persistent mental projection. Think about it. When the physical body finally drops away, this subtle vehicle stays completely intact, carrying your mind forward into brand new realms and experiences. Honestly, it's the true engine driving your subjective reality.
Let's jump into Section 2, analyzing the original verse, specifically Chapter 61, Verse 1.
All right, looking at reference Sarg-61, passage 7234, the original Sanskrit text begins, Manaso Vidya. The literal English translation of this is incredibly powerful. It tells us, the emanation of the subtle body arises from the supreme consciousness through the binding power of mind and primal illusion. We call that primal illusion avidya. So what does this actually mean? It means your subtle body isn't biological at all. It's literally projected by consciousness itself, bound by the mind's illusions. And you know what's fascinating? In modern cognitive science, we see massive echoes of this in something called neuroprojection. It's this concept of how the brain actively constructs the reality we perceive rather than just passively taking it in.
As I explained directly to Rama in this scripture, the mind, through its own conceptualization, assumes a subtle form, linking the infinite Brahman to the finite physical experience. Simply put, the mind literally creates the vehicle it uses to interact with the world. If we look at this through the lens of the modern holographic principle of the mind, it's like these abstract, formless intentions of pure consciousness condense into a functional, subtle blueprint. The mind essentially dreams up a boundary, and suddenly the infinite feels completely finite.
All right, let's move on to Section 3, Vashishtha's philosophical interpretation, where we'll look at the logical progression of all this. Let's break down the exact step-by-step emanation process. It's brilliant in its logic. Step 1. Pure, unconditioned consciousness, Brahman, just exists, perfectly still. Step 2. Within this pure space, a tiny, subtle vibration or intention arises. That right there is the entry of avidya, primal ignorance. Step 3. This vibration solidifies, forming the mind, or manas. And finally, Step 4. The mind, now totally full of intentions, manifests the Linga Deha as a bridge so it can go out and experience its desires. It's literally abstract consciousness logically stepping down its frequency into a subtle form just so it can eventually interact with the physical world. And that brings us to an absolute, fundamental truth of our reality. The Linga Dehet is completely rooted in avidya. Its entire existence relies on this continuous mental projection. Because the mind is constantly projecting a me in here and an out there, it creates this incredibly powerful, convincing illusion of separation from pure, non-dual consciousness. This illusion, it sets the entire stage for all our karmic experiences, all our suffering, and all our desires. It's basically a persistent mirage. Which naturally leads to a massive, really provocative question. Think about it. If our subtle body, our mind, and all our resulting life experiences are literally born of an illusion, a mere projection of avidya, how on earth do we transcend it? How do we finally wake up from this projection and return to the source?
That takes us right into Section 4, the significance in practical life, and how we apply this daily.
So how do we actually apply this ancient wisdom today? First off, you've got to recognize your mind for what it is, an incredibly powerful projector. You have to stop being a blind victim to the circumstances your own mind is actively constructing. Second, detach your core identity from your physical form. You are not this temporary shell. You're the consciousness operating the subtle machinery beneath it. Third, cultivate spiritual knowledge, or jnana. That is the direct, ultimate antidote to avidya. And finally, strive to dissolve avidya entirely. Because really understanding the linga deha, that's what allows us to take a massive step back from all our physical anxieties and finally realize our unconditioned consciousness. And finally, Section 5, the yagya of knowledge. As we wrap up this profound journey from pure consciousness to the subtle body, I want you to really ask yourself, if the mind creates the vehicle of your entire reality, what kind of reality are you allowing it to project right now? Let that sink in. On behalf of the Vedmata AI family, it is our humble request that if you found our presentation informative, please share our video as widely as possible so that the authentic knowledge of Indian Vedic texts can reach the masses. Come, let us all participate in this yagya of knowledge. Har Har Mahadev.